Over the next few minutes, you'll meet 7 of the Chamber's 2010 Breakthrough Women. We salute these visionaries who took risk and embraced change, whose passion and performance have paved the way for the dreams of new generations of women. Melody Meyer is president of Chevron's energy technology company. She became the first woman expatriate in Angola and was the first team to start a major joint venture operation in Kazakhstan.
30 years ago, when I came into this industry, it was heavily male-dominated, and over the years, we have changed that. The first time I landed in Angola, the manager of engineering met me at the heliport, and we went to have lunch in the cafeteria. There was a big buzz in the room with hundreds of people eating lunch, and the minute I walked in the door, it was just dead silence, because it was just so unusual to see a woman expat over in the camp. But immediately, you know, as I was there, things changed, and while it was a bit of a novelty because it was the first time that we'd had a woman engineer over there, it just was not a big deal. You know, no one made a big deal of it after that. When the rotational opportunity first came up, I had a paradigm that my children were 3, 6, and 8, and that would be too challenging for us. But my husband just said, look, you ought to go for it. We can handle this. And it worked out beautifully for us. We took an alternative lifestyle and worked hard to make it a better lifestyle for us. And in fact, it was. I had a chance to work in the preschool with my children. I had a chance to create a 28-28 Girl Scout troop where I was the leader on, you know, my hitch off, and I had another leader on time on. I tell people all the time to not put off their life aspirations to trade off with their career aspirations, because you can do both.
Lyne Liberado is a partner at Haynes Boone. She became the first female president of the Houston Bar Association. She co-authored Summary Judgments in Texas, which is recognized as one of the most cited articles by appellate courts nationwide.
Women have both advantages and disadvantages. And the fact of the matter is, I'm fortunate, I'm involved in a lot of big cases, and it is still the norm that I'm the only woman in the room. I'm kind of used to it being harder. You know, it's the saying about, you know, what Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, what was the difference? She did everything he did, but in heels and backwards. It still feels that way sometimes. But I also think that, in a broad, it's a generalization, but I think women are more sensitive to other people and their feelings, and have a better sense of what's going on and what's going to be persuasive, for example. And so I think that those kinds of experiences and that kind of sensitivity helps me in the courtroom and helps me in dealing with my contemporaries and dealing with judges and that sort of thing. So I do think there are advantages. I think there are disadvantages. I think women still are presumptively not as good as men. That men walk in the door with the view that they're going to be competent, and they have to disprove that. Women walk in the door with the view that they're not competent, and they have to prove it. So that's an evolutionary change too. I accept it. I embrace it in the sense that, all right, I can do that. Done that before, been there, done that. And, you know, I charge on. I'm sorry, it is harder to be a woman professionally. It's harder to be a woman in trying to balance your life. But what's wonderful, it's getting better, and it's getting better quick.
Valerie Gibbs is the president of the Houston market for Bank of Texas. She's been known for her impressive results in banking over the past 25 years.
One of the advantages I've had is just being a woman in a room full of a bunch of men and being the only woman. So you actually stick out. People will look to you and they'll remember you. And so that can be a real advantage for you if you make the most of that situation. The other thing is, I think people really want to deal with somebody different every once in a while and get a different perspective. So you will get asked to bring a different perspective that maybe they don't feel like they're going to get from the same gender all the time. So that's a really good advantage.
Beth Wolfe is chairman and CEO of Beth Wolfe Real Estate. She is a recognized leader in residential real estate. Wolfe has been appointed to serve the city of Houston by 3 former mayors.
I went into the real estate business in 1974, and I was the sole supporter of my children, who were then 4 and 6 years old. So I picked real estate because it was a field that was acceptable for women, that I would have my own flexibility as far as time and income potential. Back in the 70s, women did not have that many opportunities. Therefore, I went into real estate, and in 1978 opened my own company. At the time, I called it Wolfe & Associates because it still was not particularly attractive to be a woman in business. I think that we're on the right path. We are slowly edging up where we're very close to making as much money as men do for the same job. And in many cases, women have truly broken the glass ceiling. And I think that's very important. And I know that when we get together, there's nothing that we cannot do.
Ilana Trevino is the CEO of Memorial Hermann Foundation. She is credited for directing a campaign that successfully raised $40 million to buy 6 Life Flight helicopters for the city of Houston.
It becomes a question of prioritizing your life. And when I was appointed, I said to them, I have 3 children. First and foremost, I am a mother. And that will never change. They will always come first. But I had very supportive bosses who absolutely got the importance of family. In hospital administration, I think women are educated in master's degree in health administration or MBAs with a focus on health. I think they're in schools in the numbers. But I think as they progress up to the senior levels, I don't see the numbers as great. I think it's very challenging, and I think a lot of these industries have to figure out a way of doing it to retain the brilliant young women that then want to take a couple of years off to take care of their kids when they're little, but then want to get back into the workplace. I love that expression, to he who much is given, much is expected. I mean, there's just no question about that. The more that you are in a position to give back and to help and to turn around and reach back and to put your hand out and help the next person along, I mean, it's just, that's what this is all about. It's about giving back to the community. It's about creating a better place for all of us to live and for our children to live. So I think very much for those of us that have been blessed with families and children and careers, we absolutely have an obligation to give back.
Susan McHale Doon is the president and general manager of KHOU Television. Broadcasting and Cable Magazine named her 2008 General Manager of the Year in the Top 25 Markets category. Under her leadership, KHOU has won more awards for journalistic excellence than any other Texas television station.
I fell in love with this business pretty early in my career, and decided once I got into the business that I wanted to play at the highest level that I could. I always knew from the time I was a little girl that I was going to have a career. My mother was very influential in my life. I think that she was probably the person that had the greatest influence because she showed me in a very quiet way that you don't have to choose. You can have a career, you can have a family, you can have a marriage, you can have all of that. You don't have to make choices, and you can make it all work. I think there have been disadvantages to being a woman just because we were a little bit of a fish out of water initially. And maybe because of that, women have had to work a little bit harder, had to be a little bit more ahead of the game, had to be a little more aggressive, had to make sure that your desires for your future career were known.
Mayor Annise Parker took over the most powerful post in city government in January, but she's already familiar with City Hall, having served as city controller and having been on the city council.
I'm very proud to be the second woman mayor of Houston. I believe that women change the way we debate issues. We change the issues that are debated. We approach the world differently than men do. It's not that we're better, but it is different, and I think it's important to be at the table. When I make a decision, I think back to my own family. One of the most important influences in my life was my maternal grandmother, who was born in 1899, and I loved more than anyone else in the world. And when I do something, I think, how would my grandmother feel about this? Is this something I'd want her to read about in the newspaper? And she loved me unconditionally, and it wouldn't have affected how she cared about me, but I would always want to make her proud. And I think that's a good check on everything that we do. Something that I'm trying to make a part of every one of my public speeches is a call to volunteerism, to activism. We can change the world. We do it every day. I would encourage everyone to get involved in networking opportunities as well as volunteering opportunities, and the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce is a great place to start.